I'm Mark Golub. You're watching live here on JBS our coverage of the address by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to a joint session of Congress. We carry the speech for you, and you heard a number of Jewish leaders, left and right, who commented from various perspectives on the speech. There was unanimous feeling that he did a super job. Micah Halpern was with us up until 1 o'clock, and Micah's comment was he would get a 95 from Micah because Micah never gives higher than a 95 grade. I give him an A+. I thought the content was superb. I thought he's always good when he speaks. And I heard somebody say, one of the things that was going to upset the administration that did not want the Israeli Prime Minister to speak had to do with the fact that his English is far better than many of those who are in Congress. So he speaks remarkably well, just beautiful English. The address, I thought, was written very, very well. There were wonderful allusions in it as well, from Robert Frost to Moses. And the content, I thought, was very, very good. You heard Israeli journalist Haviv Retegur say that Israelis were afraid he would use it as a political speech. And by the way, Ron, if we have the clip of Isaac Herzog. Isaac Herzog is the opposition candidate. He represents what is basically the Labor Party. It's now called the Zionist Union. But Isaac Herzog is the political rival of Benjamin Netanyahu. They're running somewhat neck and neck. I can understand, I guess, if I was Isaac Herzog, I would resent the fact that the Prime Minister has a platform as prestigious and as wide, and the entire world is watching the Prime Minister speak from the platform of the Congress. And so I could see a political rival, whether it's Isaac Herzog or Tzipi Livni, try to belittle the Prime Minister, question his motives, say it was for political purposes. It was fascinating to hear Haviv talk about how the Israeli Supreme Court had the speech on a delay so that if he began to do something they believed was political in nature, political meaning in terms of domestic Israeli politics, they would be able to cut that part of the speech out. But in fact, as Haviv just told us, there were no edits to the speech because the Prime Minister was speaking as a head of state. And if you weren't here earlier, I made the point that there were those who said he should have waited. The Prime Minister should have waited till after the elections. The elections are scheduled for March 17th. On March 24th, the deal is supposed to be, by the way, it's not signed and sealed, but agreed to. So 7 days after the election, the deal was supposed to be done. That if Netanyahu had waited until the election was over, number one, he might no longer be Prime Minister. And that would mean a very different person would be speaking from the rostrum of the Congress. I don't know whether it's appropriate then to give him an opportunity to speak as a world leader. So he may have lost the opportunity if he waited and lost the election. But in addition, if you know how Israeli elections work, the party that has the most seats wins the most seats in the parliamentary system of the Israeli government, the Knesset. The party that is able to put together a coalition of one more than the majority, there are 120 seats in the Knesset, so you have to have 61 seats to become the party in power. So if Herzog were to win more seats than Netanyahu, the president of Israel, Reuven Rivlin, would give Herzog the opportunity to try to create a coalition government. He would be given a certain amount of time to do that. If after a given period of time, he comes back to the Prime Minister and to the President and says to the President, I couldn't put together 61 seats, then the party with the next most seats, which people assume will be Likud, would then be given the opportunity to create a coalition government. So they would go to Netanyahu, and Netanyahu would have the opportunity to create a 61-seat majority in the Knesset. That could take easily more than a week. Sometimes it takes weeks for the dust to settle and for Israel to know who the government is. The notion that he should have waited until after the election is wholly and unequivocally unrealistic. So I could see people arguing, he shouldn't come at all. But you can't argue he should have waited until after the election. At the same time, politics are by nature dirty, cynical, self-serving. And I'm saying that's true of every politician, of every party. So that those who, as David Horowitz, who is the editor, the esteemed editor-in-chief of the Times of Israel, David Horowitz wrote a column where he thought for the sake of Israel, Isaac Herzog should have gone with Netanyahu and stood by his side in Congress to show that on this issue, on the Iranian issue, there was Israeli bipartisan support. And so there are those who felt that in this issue, Herzog should have been larger, should have transcended what is politics as usual. In America and in Israel, all of us know America is no better than Israel when it comes to politics. But I have to say I am somewhat disappointed, not surprised, but somewhat disappointed that Isaac Herzog has taken a position of criticism in response to Netanyahu's speech. Do we have the quote, Sloan? Netanyahu has deepened the rift with the U.S. administration. Israel needs a strong ally to survive, and we don't want to alienate our friend America. Isaac Herzog, the Zionist Union Party leader. I don't know about you. My sense was, if anything, there was a healing quality to much of what Prime Minister Netanyahu said during his address. At the same time, I don't doubt for a moment that there are those in the administration, maybe President Obama himself, who when they hear the Prime Minister outline point by point of why he thinks it's not a bad deal that's on the table, it's a very bad deal because it leaves Iran with a nuclear infrastructure and it tells Iran that sanctions are going to be slowly removed and that with the sunset clause, at one point in time, Iran will have the legitimate right, the international legitimate right, to create the infrastructure needed to produce multiple nuclear weapons and an intercontinental ballistic missile system to deliver those nuclear weapons anywhere on the face of the earth, including every major city in the United States of America. So that was the basic speech. And again, Jan Weiss has been on our phones, and she tells me that many of you viewers have wanted to speak. Sloan, let's put the phone number up on the screen, and I invite now you to participate in the conversation, 201-242-1142. One more point before we take our first call. I've told you I was down at the AIPAC National Policy Conference this past weekend, went down. It began Sunday morning, and I was there until Monday night. I came back Monday night so I could anchor this live broadcast here on JBS. I met so many lovely, lovely people, just, participants who were just there to be part of the AIPAC conference, to support AIPAC, who just could not say nicer things to me, who, met me in the elevator, met me on the escalator, met me in breakout sessions, came by me when we were in the press area. We were even in a hotel. We stayed at the Renaissance, which is right across the street from the convention center. And at one point, my wife, Ruth, is with me, and we're leaving the room, and across the hall, a door opens for room service, and there's this lovely woman who sees me and just can't tell me how wonderful it is to meet me and how wonderful JBS is, and how she's a great supporter also of ISGAP and loves Charles Small, and saw my interview on L'chaim with Charles Small, and just lovely things to say. And it is so gratifying and so affirming to get your emails, and you send me some of the most extraordinary emails, but then to be out at a major Jewish convention, and I met people from all over the country, people from Connecticut, people from New Jersey. Met a lovely young rabbi from Englewood, New Jersey, young guy who just loves what JBS does. Met people from Florida, Boca Raton, who watch on Hotwire. People watch on Hotwire. Obviously, they watch on Cablevision's Optimum 138 in the greater New York metropolitan area. And they watch on RCN. They watch on Roku. Had people telling me they watch us all the time on Roku. They even got Roku because some cable systems have still not launched this. Time Warner has not put us on. Comcast has not put us on. DirecTV has not put us on. It is so disappointing. As people tell me all the time, there's never been a Jewish television channel. It's a serious channel, a PBS-style Jewish channel with the public affairs and news that we have. Broadcasting. It's not that we simply brought you the speech that you could have seen on many American channels, but here you have Micah Halpern, Charles Small, Malcolm Hoenlein, Mort Klein, Steve Gutto, on and on and on and on. Thane Rosenbaum, Chaviv Retegur, and Izzy Liebler from Israel. Where do you have an opportunity to do that except JBS? And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. This is a nonprofit educational initiative that the Jewish community has said it needs more than any other single thing. It needs educational outreach and information. Some of the people who were on were kind enough to say that about JBS. We're a nonprofit. So many of you watching support what we do with your own tax-deductible donations to Jewish education and media. It's just wonderful. So that for Comcast or Time Warner or DirecTV not to have JBS available to their viewers, it continues to boggle my mind, and I'm hoping we can ultimately convince Time Warner and Comcast and DirecTV and Cox and Charter and Verizon, all of them should be carrying JBS. Having said that, I want to go to our phones and welcome from New York, Joshua. Joshua, thank you for joining us here live on JBS.
Thank you so much for having me, Mark. I think it's a great program. You guys have done great coverage of this important event.
What's your thought?
Listen, my thoughts are that I thought one of the interesting parts that Prime Minister Netanyahu brought up was ideology. And in the United States, we politically don't grapple with the ideology.
Yes.
We don't, we've kind of, our culture has learned how to take ideology and put it in a small box and allow that small box to be part of a secular political outlook. Mm-hmm. So it's very hard for the United States government and the way it's been created to grapple with the comments that the Prime Minister read from the Ayatollahs, specifically talking about how their ideology affects what they're doing militarily and politically.
Yes.
I think it's a sad sort of two-faced part of the United States, but we're really loud about talking about freedoms. We're really loud about talking about how we would love to support a lot of movements of freedom around the world. But when you kind of look at what the State Department has done, it's really has a very kind of secular capitalistic job. And that job is to ensure the primary resources get to this country, which is oil in the Middle East, which is the thing we haven't talked about today with Iran.
Yes.
And the second part of it is that America's biggest companies get contracts, and America's biggest companies are the defense companies. Mm-hmm. And so one way to look at this Iran deal on the table is that if you don't believe in their ideology, if you actually believe their ideology is not relevant, and all you see is there's a huge market that's been closed for an entire generation that could open. Mm-hmm. And, the first thing we saw when the restrictions were lifted last year was that there was a flood of companies that walked in and started supplying airplane parts and helicopter parts and institutional parts. So, the Obama administration, I think they saw it was a business, and they saw the business was let's American companies sell into Iran, And I think the second part they saw was that, wow, if people start getting afraid of Iran, guess what? Our allies in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait will also love to buy some beautiful military parts from McDonnell Douglas and Raytheon and all the other big American companies that employ Americans.
That's a fascinating analysis, Joshua. By the way, you have a young-sounding voice. How old are you?
38.
Good for you. And where do you live? Where do you watch JBS?
Listen, I'm watching you from Manhattan.
From Manhattan.
I'm watching you from New York City.
Okay. On RCN or Hotwire?
No, listen, I just heard your plea to get on more cable channels, but I am watching you on the internet.
Okay. What's your personal story? You sound like you're both involved and knowledgeable. Tell our audience, I hear about yourself. Who are you?
Who am I? Listen, I'm a journalist. I'm a journalist, which I don't know if it's a good thing to say when you're calling into a radio show.
Yes, it is.
I'm a journalist. I was really fortunate to work abroad for many years. So I got to learn something that I think Prime Minister Netanyahu has, which is the ability to swim in two different cultures at once.
Yes.
And I think like the best politicians are the ones who can really put themselves in the shoes of the other guy they're trying to make a deal with. And when he talks about a Persian bazaar, yeah, he knows. He knows that it's...
It was a beautiful analogy, wasn't it?
No, his analogy was that, when you're negotiating, if you really want to buy the rug at the Persian bazaar and the guy gets that feeling from you, you will have the worst price ever.
Exactly.
But if you can really impart that the deal doesn't mean anything and you're happy to walk away, then that's how people negotiate in the Middle East. Sorry to say.
Yep, Joshua.
I would say just one more thing that President Obama, he also did a great mitzvah, I think, in that he opened the door to Cuba, and I think his kind of grand scheme was that Iran was similar to that. How can we kind of open our arms and take old enemies? And I think that's a great way. And I think as a president, he really went out of his way to try to do a different take on everything. When George Bush first, all the presidents, pretty much their first foreign visit is to England, which has been our oldest ally.
Yes.
This president said, I want to make my first visit someplace else, just so the other people can feel that we're paying attention to them. And I think that was great. That was a great thing.
I understand. Joshua, do you think the president is correct that there is a way of dealing diplomatically and making a deal with Iran?
Diplomatically means not to have a war, right?
No. His stance has been, if you talk and negotiate, you can work things out. And you don't have to take bellicose stands. And it's not about sanctions, and it's not about threats. It's certainly not about war. The question I'm asking you is, are you sympathetic to the administration's approach to Iran?
I think that to make a new status quo in the world, there's the three elements, right? And the United States is embarrassingly only looking at two. And the three elements are the financial and the economic, the money part, the political part, and then the religious, ideological part. And I think what the United States has done is that their diplomacy is just the first two parts. The money part, great. The political part, great. But the fact that we cannot handle talking about an ideology or working to change it it's a symbolic problem, right? It's a religion. So let's find symbolic answers to symbolic problems. And none of our stuff deals with that. So to me, the thing that kind of rankles my mind is how do you have a theocracy negotiating with a democracy? Mm-hmm. In our case, a secular, capitalistic, the biggest in the history of the world, democracy, money democracy. How can the money democracy negotiate with a theocracy? And I think that's the question that his administration hasn't been able to answer because none of them are willing to admit that a person's ideology is influencing the debate.
Yes. Joshua, it's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you so much, Mark.
I hope you stay with me.
I wish you luck as you expand the channel.
Thank you very, very much, Joshua. We go to New Jersey and welcome Ken. Ken, thank you for joining us.
Hello. Thank you for taking
How are you?
the call. I'll try to be quick so other people have a chance.
Ken, talk a hair louder, Ken.
Okay, fine.
You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hello.
You're on the air, Ken.
Okay. My point is that I don't understand how Iran has earned the right to sit at a bargaining table and be treated as though they're a civilized people. This harkens back to the summer when the administration seemed in the Israeli war to take the side of the opposition, reprimanded Israel for not for killing children on the opposite side when we all know what was happening. Yet it doesn't seem to get the coverage. My point being that the Obama administration clearly seems to me to start from a position that is not pro-Israel. And that troubles me. Do we just wait for the administration to be changed? When you see all the people in Congress who were so excited today, you would think that, they're being led by a leader who imparts that excitement.
Yes.
But they're not.
Yes.
So what happens when Obama gets a chance to speak to them all again? Does he try to dissuade them from the logic that we heard from the Prime Minister? Anyway, that's frustration, I guess, I'm venting.
I appreciate your sharing it with us. By the way, were you impressed with Prime Minister Netanyahu's presentation?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I thought he hit it perfectly. He complimented. He knows he's a statesman and he's a gentleman. And he knows, even though some people I've heard call him a warmonger, which makes me crazy, I think that he knows how to talk to people. And he was getting the respect first from Congress and from the president, one would hope. And then he made his stand without any equivocation.
Yes.
And I respected it.
Ken, very well said, and I appreciate your participation. Keep watching, Ken. We'll talk again.
I sure will. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
We're going to go to Canada. This is interesting to me. We're being watched by Ron in Canada. Ron, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Rabbi Golub. I want to point out at the outset, I am not Jewish, but I'm an ardent supporter of Israel as the Jewish state in the world. I was, for 13 years, the national leader of the Christian Heritage Party of Canada, which is the fifth largest of our political parties.
That is wonderful. What is your last name, Ron?
Gray, Gray.
Ron Gray. It is an honor to have you on the phone, Ron. Thank you. What was your thoughts as you listened to the Prime Minister address Congress?
There was a couple of points that Prime Minister Netanyahu did not make. I'm sure he knows them, but and I kind of wish he had. One was that the deal that is being negotiated by John Kerry with Iran is, in fact, a hudna. That is, in Islamic theology, that is a temporary agreement that you make. A temporary agreement that you make until you are strong enough to obliterate your opponent.
How do you know, Ron, that they view it as a hudna?
Well, the fact that it has a 10-year termination, which is exactly the example set by Muhammad at Hudaybiyah.
Yes.
There's also the fact that in Islamic theology, there's the doctrine of taqiyya, which says that it is not only permissible, but in some cases obligatory, if it will advance the cause of Islam, to lie to the other person.
Absolutely.
I don't, like Joshua from New York, I don't know how you can have a conversation with that.
Yes, that was his point.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think we need to keep these things in mind. When Prime Minister Netanyahu said, this is not just a bad deal, it is a very bad deal.
Yes.
Those are the facts underlying it that we, as the watching audience, need to remember. We need to keep in mind the fact that Iran is the world's largest international supporter of terrorism, and Iran has, like all of militant Islam, it has the goal, all four Islamic schools of law agree that the world is divided into two houses, Dar el-Islam, the house of submission, and Dar el-Harb, the house of war. In their theology, they are already at war with us.
By the way, you say it very, very well. Ron, you are from Canada. What city?
I live in Abbotsford, which is out on the west coast of Canada in British Columbia.
How do you watch JBS?
Oh, on the internet.
Okay. Let me ask you, Ron, you're Canadian, so that
Yes.
in some way, you know, here in America, we're dealing with the American administration, dealing with the Israeli prime minister. As a Canadian, how do you view the Iranian threat in general, and what do you feel the Canadian government is doing in terms of, you know, being willing or not being willing to enter into, again, what Prime Minister Netanyahu called a very bad deal?
Well, first of all, I'm very happy with our present government and the fact that Prime Minister Harper stands as one of the foremost supporters of Israel in the world.
Yes.
This is a moment like about 1938 in Germany.
Yes.
And Iran is the Nazi of this area.
Yes. You know, Ron, doesn't that seem so obvious to you? Isn't it surprising to you, Ron, that everybody doesn't see it that way?
It is astonishing to me.
I'm sorry?
I have been praying for a Churchill for this time, and today I saw a Churchillian speech.
Yes. Ron, it's wonderful to have you on. Ron Gray, I wish you all the best in all the work you do in Canada and within your Christian community. And I hope from time to time you call me again and maybe one day we get to meet each other.
Thank you, Rabbi Golub. I hope so too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. On our phones now, we go back to New York City and welcome Abby. Abby, thank you for joining us.
Shalom. This is Abigail Waxman.
Shalom.
Taken from the words of Prime Minister Netanyahu. And we will live with all the world in peace. Shalom. And we will stand for all the world to see. Shalom. Our time is now. Come join us now in peace. Shalom. Help build a strong and peaceful world with shalom. Alechem shalom. Alechem shalom. Alechem shalom. Alechem.
Abby, that's wonderful. What, Abby, dear, Abby, what part of New York do you live in?
Pardon me?
What part of New York do you live in?
Now in Chelsea. I used to be part of Rabbi Luxstein's community, and I have a class with him tomorrow morning, too early in the morning.
By the way, Rabbi Luxstein was at AIPAC. Would you please tell him you spoke to me and I wish him all the best?
Absolutely.
And Abby, what was your reaction as you watched Prime Minister Netanyahu speak to Congress? How did you feel inside?
Unbelievable, because usually I'm not such a fan of him. I don't love him. But I'm so worried about politics because I am an Obama person and did vote for him. It was wonderful. It was nonpartisan. It was direct. It was articulate. And now maybe you didn't see, as I said, a lot of the Democrats did not stand, but they did hear.
By the way, it's very interesting and sort of big of you. I'm very impressed. You are an Obama supporter. You voted for him. You're not a fan of Bibi. And yet you say the speech still impressed you. Did I have it right?
It was wonderful.
Abby, it's so lovely of you to call. By the way, what cable system do you watch us on?
RCN TV.
RCN, okay. Abby, I hope you call again. Thank you very, very much, dear. Bye-bye. We go to New Jersey, and we welcome Sylvia. Sylvia, thank you for joining us.
It's Sybil.
Sybil, I apologize. Sybil, it's still wonderful to have you.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts, Sybil? Sybil, you're on the air. By the way, if you're going to call us, call to be on television, you have to turn the volume of your television down because there is always a delay. And if you're watching television, you don't know when you're speaking to me. So once you are on the phone and Jen tells you you're going to be on the phone, do me a favor, turn your television down and just listen through the receiver. Sybil, you're on the air. What's your comment?
My comment is the following, that it's important for the prime minister to have come before the elections, because had anyone tried to come after the election, it might very well have been that he might not have been elected, and he's a very important spokesman.
Mm-hmm.
The second is just something that I noticed that he did very aptly. He acknowledged the presence of Harry Reid, the Democratic leader.
Yes, he did.
And I thought that was very cute.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
He also, by the way, Sybil, he had some very, very nice things to say about President Obama and President Obama's commitment to the state of Israel. How'd you react when he said that?
Well, that was what you call in Yiddish, "Gletten a bissel."
So you think he was simply trying to sort of pacify. All right, Sybil, I appreciate the call very, very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
201-242-1142, if you'd like to comment about Prime Minister Netanyahu's address to Congress. Again, what he tried to say was, and Micah said this just before we ended the last hour, the question is, can you trust Iran? And given everything Iran has done, everything Iranian leaders, including Rouhani, has said in print about how you deceive the West. He acknowledges you deceive the West. It's hard to understand how one can really trust any kind of Iranian deal. And I think that was one of the things that was driving the prime minister, who talked about a very, very bad deal, better off without it. Don't lift the sanctions on Iran until they stop threatening the Middle East, stop supporting worldwide terrorism, and stop threatening to annihilate the one and only Jewish state. And that was the first time there was really wild applause and whistling and cheering in the audience. Amazing. We go back to our phones. I welcome Catherine from Pennsylvania. Catherine, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for taking my call, Rabbi Golub. I'm an avid watcher of all things JBS.
That's wonderful.
And I was in awe when I was able to watch Prime Minister Netanyahu's speech. You've been asking people for emotional reactions,
yes,
and mine was wow.
Wow.
And also, I'm sorry. I felt that his speech transcended politics, and that in a very Jewish way, it was the right thing for him to do. And unlike some people who think that, oh, this was a ploy to get him something, in his own election, frankly, my impression of people that are 2 weeks away from a major election, they have a lot to do.
Yes.
And this took a lot out of him to do this, but I had this feeling that this was just the right thing to do, because it's all going to hell. And I voted for Obama twice.
Are you disappointed now in the way the president has led the country?
Oh, my goodness. I've been disappointed most acutely since the summer, when he would balance every single comment of the horrors being perpetrated by Gaza with, and Israel needs to behave themselves, and his absolute inability to say Islamic terrorist.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It drives me insane.
Catherine, before the prime minister came and spoke today at Congress, were you in favor of his coming, or were you worried that in some way he would do damage to the Israeli-American relationship?
I did not worry about that, because I think, as he reflected, it's deeper than that. Our relationship is deeper. What I did feel was like I wanted to call President Obama, because his mother is not available, and tell him to grow up and stop making a big deal out of this. In fact, I would have had a great deal of respect for President Obama had he attended.
Well, I understand. I'm not sure he could have done that. But let me...
No, he couldn't do it.
Yes. By any chance, do you consider yourself a lifelong Democrat?
Yes.
Okay. How do you feel about the fact that there were 30 House Democrats and 6 Democratic senators who absented themselves purposefully and did not come and hear Prime Minister Netanyahu speak?
Disappointed, ashamed, and just appalled. I can't even believe it.
Yes, I was disappointed too. And again, I can understand if a member of Congress, House or Senate, wanted to say in a press conference that they thought the Prime Minister was doing something inappropriate. That wouldn't bother me. Not to show up, to me, crossed the line. And I am not worried, Catherine. I don't know how you feel. I think you said you were not worried either. I do not fear long-term for any dissolution or diminution of the strength of the U.S.-Israeli relationship. I don't worry about bipartisan support in Congress. And I've said over and over again, my experience in life is there have been much, much more explosive events in the news which come and go in 72 hours. You don't hear about them again. They're just gone. Sometimes, by the way, to people's enormous detriment. There are people who are suffering, who get a moment of attention in the news, and our sympathies go out, and there may even be an attempt to help them. But then suddenly, the news goes on to the next story, and the people who are in need are never heard from or thought of again. But that's the way of the world, and this notion that somehow this one event was going to destroy the U.S.-Israeli relationship is one that never reverberated with me. And I'm wondering, Catherine, how you feel.
Well, it never reverberated with me either. I just kept thinking, go find a cure for cancer. Come on, you're wasting all of our time even talking about this. I mean, I was glad that Prime Minister Netanyahu realized that this was an important message for the world.
Yes. Catherine, it's wonderful to speak to you. You live in New Jersey. Do you watch on Optimum Channel 138?
Actually, I Roku you now.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, because every time I go to a cable company that doesn't carry you, I just freak out. So I started a Roku.
That is fabulous. You keep watching and be in touch with me from time to time.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Catherine, dear. By the way, I want you to hear what Catherine just said, because there are some people who can't watch JBS because Time Warner won't put us on, and Comcast won't launch us, and DirecTV won't put us on. And Verizon, I'm hoping to be on Verizon very, very soon, but we're not there yet. There is an option, in addition to the computer or your mobile phone, by going to jbstv.org, you can get Roku. You can get Roku, by the way, from our website. Go to the jbstv.org website. You can order Roku under $100, a one-time payment you never pay again, a box about so big, comes to your home, you plug it in, there's a line that goes from the Roku box to the back of your television. If you have a flat-screen TV, there's an HDMI cable that connects it. Plug it in, connected, done. And Roku has many, many channels on it. One of the channels is JBS. You can watch Netflix and Amazon. You can watch many, many things. We are free, so that once you buy the Roku box, it's yours forever. And here I'm telling you who are watching right now on television or on Roku or on online, but I tell you because you have friends. And many of your friends live in Time Warner area or Comcast area or DirecTV, and they can't watch us. For less than $100, one-time payment, no monthly fee, they get the Roku box just as Catherine did, and you can watch this day and night. The only thing you can't do is DVR us, but you can watch us live. So I'm hoping if you have any friends or family who you know would love to have JBS in their home, on their television, tell them to get Roku. Just go to the JBS TV website, jbstv.org, and on the website you can order Roku. It'll come right to your home with a cable. You plug it in, you connect it to your TV, done. You or somebody you love, you can give it, by the way, as a gift. Give it as a Purim gift to somebody you love. A Roku box. You can also buy it at Best Buy. You can buy it at many stores. I'd like you to do it through the JBS website because I want you to go to the JBS website. But get yourself Roku. We go to Brooklyn and welcome Saul. Saul, thank you for joining us. Is Saul there?
Yes. I thank you.
Thank you. Saul, what was your thoughts as you watched the Prime Minister speak to Congress?
I thought he spoke very well.
Yes.
And I think, and I hope he warned the entire world of the danger of the Iranians.
Don't listen to your TV, Saul. Just listen to the phone.
Oh.
Yes. If you're on television by the phone, you have to turn the
Okay,
volume of your
the TV
down.
I
Yeah.
mean, the sound.
Just listen through the telephone.
Okay.
Okay. Saul, before the Prime Minister spoke in Congress, were you in favor of his coming or were you worried about his coming?
No, I was in favor of his coming. The only thing I worried about was the protocol that they made such a big fuss over. They didn't make that big a fuss protocol when somebody in the State Department called Netanyahu a chicken, manure.
Yes.
They didn't press for any protocol at that time.
Well, Saul,
another thing that I watch your station and I see quite a few much smarter men than I do. But why do they keep referring to the Arabs who lived in Eretz Yisrael as Palestinians? There is no such thing as a Palestinian Arab. Hello?
Yeah, no, Saul, I understand what you mean. And look, it's hard to tell people what to call themselves. This is what they call themselves now. And therefore...
they call themselves... those are fictitious names.
Yes,
why don't they call themselves Arabs, what they are?
Yes and no. Saul, unfortunately, I can't get into that right now because the topic is the Prime Minister's speech, but I thank you for the call very, very much. You keep watching. We go to New Jersey, and I welcome Gil to the program. Gil, thank you for joining us.
Yes, here I am.
Okay, Gil, you're on the air.
Thank you very much.
What were your thoughts as you watched the Prime Minister speak today to Congress?
Am I talking to Rabbi Golub?
You are. Don't listen to your TV. Turn your TV volume down.
I did already. That's why I watch his lips, and you're talking to me a different language.
Don't even watch. You're talking to me, please.
Okay. Number one, the speech, I loved it very much.
Yes.
Number two, there's no wonder that the speech was so good and that Netanyahu got that much standing ovations, because the man is not talking nonsense, he's talking the truth.
Yes.
Okay, he's given us the truth, even though some didn't like his truth, and some of those, as I may express myself, of the Democrats who gave me a little bit of their impression about him after the speech were so unhappy because he kind of came to lecture them how to do things and how to run the world and how to make deals, and they know by themselves better. And apparently, to my opinion, this is why Obama is doing what he's doing, by having all these good advisors.
Very interesting. So, Gil, where are you from?
I'm a big mix.
Tell me your mix.
First of all, I'm an ex-Israeli.
Yes.
I am what you call a VA from the Israeli military.
Yes.
Okay, I served for 7 years in the military, in Tzahal.
Yes.
I live in New Jersey, in Jackson. I was born in Poland. I'm a Holocaust survivor.
You are.
Yes, yes, sir.
Were you in any camp?
At the beginning, I was closed in when the Warsaw Ghetto started to be closed, until my father somehow managed to escape and came back and dragged my mother and myself out of it. And then we escaped to Russia, apparently, and the Russians took us as big spies as well. I was about 6 years old, I guess, one of the biggest spies for the Russians. And they sent us to Siberia, where I lost my sister for hunger and cold, and a whole long story.
That is a marvelous story. You were 6 years old during the Holocaust?
Yes.
Maybe one day you'll let me come talk to you. I would love to hear your story. You sound, by the way, for a Holocaust survivor, you were only 6 years old, you're still a young man.
I am. I just celebrated my 80s.
That's lovely.
Yeah, it is lovely. If you talk to my wife, she's already suffering from me for 60 years almost.
You've been married for 60 years?
Next year is going to be, next January is going to be 60 years.
Mazal Tov. Where'd you meet your
They
wife?
met in the Israeli army.
Yeah.
The Israeli. That's your wife on the phone?
That's correct.
What's her name?
My name is Tmima. I'm Israeli born in Israel.
You're also a Sabra. I have two.
Sabra. I am a Sabra.
Good for you both. Good for you both.
Yeah, I met him in the Israeli army. And my cousin, a general in the Israeli army, did our wedding.
Yeah, he organized our wedding.
Yeah.
This is like mishpacha together here. So
we are one big mishpacha always.
We are all one big mishpacha, absolutely. But that was a theme that Netanyahu spoke about at AIPAC, where he called America and the Jewish people in the state of Israel all one large mishpacha. So what is your wife's name again?
Tammy.
In English, Tammy, but in Hebrew, Tmima.
The Americans have a tough time pronouncing her name.
So in English, your name Tammy?
She started with saying Tmima, but nobody couldn't handle it, so we changed it to Tammy.
Okay. So Tmima, did you like Gil right away?
Who, like my husband?
Yeah.
I met him in the Carmel Mountains. Right away, I said, this is the guy.
It's wonderful.
For good measures, we ended in, I assume you speak Hebrew.
Kitzat.
For the good measures, like I said, almost the first meeting we had between us, we went to Eliyahu Hanavi's kever.
Yes.
Me'arat Eliyahu Hanavi.
Yes, I understand.
Okay. And
they went to the grave of Eliyahu Hanavi.
God is leading us.
I'm sorry, what?
From there and on, God is leading us.
I understand. So, where do you...
He wrote a book about himself.
One time, if you will be interested, I'll let you have my book that I wrote. I'm talking about a book. I didn't write five pages.
Where do you live in New Jersey?
Jackson, New Jersey.
Jackson. And do you watch on Cablevision Optimum or something else?
It is Optimum, yes. The JBS?
Yeah, channel 138.
138, correct.
Okay. It's lovely to meet both of you. I hope you call me again.
If you like, I will.
Thank you very, very much.
If you don't mind, tell Rabbi Golub. I wrote him twice emails. He never answered me. I don't know whether he saw it or threw it to the garbage. One of the two.
By the way, I am Rabbi Golub, and I don't remember receiving an email from you.
I did.
Send it again. I try to respond, Gil, to every single email I get. So send it to me one more time. Don't give up on me.
Tell you what? About what?
No, you send me your email one more time.
I'll send you my email one more time.
All right?
I send you my email. I even send you some I don't know, to be proud about it, or it's just nonsense for an old guy. I wrote a bunch of Hebrew songs with lyrics and everything that have to do so much with the Jewish nation.
Good for you.
So much.
I'll look forward to your email. Thank you for joining us, both you and Tmima. You wish her my best, all right?
Bye-bye.
I love you.
Bye-bye. I love you. Shalom,
Bye-bye.
shalom. I want to go down to Washington, D.C., and bring in, again, a guy who has been an observer of the Jewish scene, one of the most ardent, passionate supporters of the State of Israel, and he does a marvelous service to the Jewish world by publishing The Jewish Voice. We welcome in David Ben-Horon. David, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, so you were in the actual halls of Congress to hear Bibi speak, yes?
Yes.
What was it like? What was the mood?
I'll tell you, for all you folks that were disappointed in his speech at AIPAC, this was very well calculated, not to give too much information about his most dramatic speech at Congress. I'll tell you, you have to be there. There's not something to be missed. It was such an historic speech. The response was just unbelievable between the Congress and the Senate and the Jewish community there, major presence of the Jewish community. The applause didn't stop. The bond between America and Israel is really, really incredible, strong. And all this talk about boycotting the session, the speech, and so forth, we didn't see it. Even people like Charles Rangel were there. Mm-hmm. Charles Rangel promised not to be there. He was there. Mm-hmm. It looks like everybody possible was there. And like I said, the response of the American people and the legislators is so fantastic. I feel like this is such a great speech, and I really hope that the speech is going to make a difference. Obama is listening to it. America is on board to go along with what we have to say. Bibi warned the world about the danger of Iran. He explained it in such a way. You can't run away with it. You can't ignore it.
Yes.
Obama cannot ignore it. Something big is going to happen in light of this speech. I'm very confident.
I hope you're right, David. I just hope you're so right. Incidentally, you're sitting in the gallery, correct?
Yes.
At what point in the speech do you say to yourself, oh my goodness, this is something really remarkable?
You know, it's very hard to measure it like this because the minute he walked in, they were all standing and clapping. They did not stop. As a matter of fact, they were cheering him. Not only clapping, they were cheering him. And everybody, all the old-time legislators, all standing and clapping. Black African legislators standing and clapping. Everybody. And you have to see the audience there. Sheldon Adelson and his wife. Eli Wiesel, rabbis, Alan Dershowitz. I mean, everybody possible was there. It was tremendous, beautiful crowd, and the response was really amazing. And from the minute he started speaking, he was very convincing. He made it very clear and showed them the danger of Iran, and it has nothing to do with Israel. The danger of Iran is international. They're expanding worldwide. It's not an Israeli problem. It's an international problem.
Exactly.
And America has to wake up. And you know something? I'm at a reception now for Lindsey Graham, all the Republican here. They understand it. The Republican here understand it. And you're going to see major legislation in Congress coming up soon. I don't think Congress and Senate are going to let this happen. So I believe good things are going to come out of it.
David, are you worried that the strain that developed over this speech, the strain between the president and the prime minister, with Democrats saying whether, Rangel came or not, there were senators and there were House members, Democratic House members, who did not attend the speech. Do you worry that in any way this entire issue, flap, event, will do something to erode bipartisan support in Congress for the state of Israel?
I don't know if you remember, Mark, but we spoke about a week ago, and I indicated to you that I don't believe it's an issue. I believe that after the speech, this is going to be forgotten.
I agree.
And after the speech, I'm more convinced that this issue is going to be something of the past, because we're talking substance here. He's bringing America. He brought to America information to enlighten them about this major threat, and it's a threat to America. They're taking over, and they'll be controlling the shipping lane of oil. But this is going to affect the economy, the American economy, the world economy. So,
I agree.
I think in the long run, we're going to look at it and say, something, we made a mistake. We thought there was appropriate not to show up, but obviously we made a mistake, and we should have been there.
Exactly right.
And it's going to be forgotten before because the issue are much bigger than showing or not showing for a speech.
Good for you, David. David, thanks for giving us a couple of moments, and I look forward to seeing you back in New York. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you.
David Ben-Horen, the publisher of The Jewish Voice. That concludes another hour together with you. Thank you, those of you who went out of your way to give us a call and to express your own thoughts. It's been a joy to be able to sit with you and to share first this extraordinary moment of history in the making. The Prime Minister of Israel speaking to the joint session of Congress, and Prime Minister Netanyahu did a spectacular job. I give him an A+. It's not there are not issues that need still to be worked on. Yes, there are. But today was a magnificent day, and we're thrilled to be able to bring it to you live here on JBS. My thanks to Sloan Copeland for this spectacular job directing the entire program, and Serge Goldberg, the production coordinator, who just puts together everything for me in a wonderful way that makes it possible for us to bring you this kind of programming. To Darab Golub, our associate director, and to the producer of this program, this special, Ron Jacobsohn, with the assistance today, wonderful on the phones, and he did so many marvelous things to help me do this program, Jan Weiss, and to Igor Funk, and to Oleg Oswolenko, to Charles Small, and to Micah Halperin, and to all those who called in. My thanks to all of them and to all of you here on JBS. Until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. Be well, my friends.